Parenting Dads.
Welcome back. This video is aimed at trying to convince you that you're capable of making a huge difference to the way your partner and baby experience the perinatal period.
A man is capable of holding his baby. A man is capable of comforting his baby, of caring for her, of dressing her, of bathing her, of making her feel loved. Being male does not preclude that. And being female does not automatically mean that you're better at it. So I think that that's a message that we've really got to get across to fathers, is that actually you have the inherent ability to do that. There isn't some gender-specific ability that's conferred on women once the baby's born. So allowing for pregnancy and birth and breastfeeding, which are specifically female, actually all other aspects of caring for a child are equally achieved by a man.
If you back yourself and work as a tight-knit team, your chances of a safe birth are definitely increased. Anna Minchin, a renowned anthropologist, writer and broadcaster, has studied us dads for the last decade. Now she says, an engaged father doesn't just benefit his child and family, but all of society. As we welcome our children into the world, we want it to be a positive experience and a good memory to look back on.
You have a lot to bring to that birth space in that intimate knowing. You know how your partner reacts, their wishes, desires, their wants for labour and birth. So you have a big role to play in sharing that knowledge with maternity care providers.
We want the pregnancy and birth to result in feelings of satisfaction and fulfilment, rather than disappointment, shame, or sadness.
Really putting yourself out there to do as much as you can, and meeting the needs of your partner or your wife or girlfriend is really important. And they know deep down, what your capabilities are, and they really appreciate when you stretch yourself. They know that you're not comfortable doing it, but if you're pushing yourself, they can see that you're making that effort. So whether you succeed or not in your effort is not the point. It's just showing that you are trying to do more than you would normally do in that situation.
Imagine this scenario. Think about as if you were helping an athlete prepare for an endurance event. You'd help them plan their race. You'd talk strategy and nutrition. You'd encourage them to train, to help them to attain the physical and mental fitness required to head into the race confidently. Now, so it is for birth. Your role is to work with your partner to prime her to be at her peak performance on the day of the birth, both physically and mentally.
You are the coach on the sideline, like she's, playing a tennis match, or she's running a marathon, or however you want to see this athletic experience of childbirth. No one would go through such an intense athletic experience without a good coach guiding you back to the breath, for example. So that's one of the most common things that you will hear in the birthing room is come back to your breath, come back to your breath. Let's count the breath together. Let's make it a bit longer.
This chart shows your level of positive impact during the birth on the horizontal axis and your level of positive involvement during pregnancy on the vertical axis. It shows that if you take an interest in the preparation and planning for birth, you're more likely to have a positive impact.
Partners and mums can really be on the same page. And I think that's when you get this wonderful team experience and this wonderful building, amplifying of the confidence. Mums really relax when they know that dads understand what they're going to be utilising inside, what they need on the outside, and when they know they have an advocate. So there's a deeper relaxation that happens through partners being prepared as well.
Basically, when couples work as a team, great things can happen. And the science backs this up. The more prepared an expectant father is, the more involved in the birth he can be, resulting in a better birth experience for everyone. The evidence suggests that women place a high value on their partner's presence and support in labour. The active engagement of fathers in maternity care is associated with long-term health and social benefits for the mother, the baby, and the whole family.
underlying all the doing in birth is the quality of your presence. So being there is in itself a gift. But if you can be there with that calm, that trust, that love, that openness, just holding that state, not projecting the medicalized, traumatic, fearful expectation of birth, but just trusting and believing and holding that space, we call it. I think that is the most important thing. And then the next step up from that. So sometimes mums don't want to be touched, but your presence as a dad is still absolutely critical. You are her oxytocin provider, in that space, your calm presence.
Continuous perinatal support has also been shown to result in improved mental health outcomes and shorter recovery times, a reduction of pain and medical interventions, improved breastfeeding outcomes, reduced maternal mortality, reduced perinatal relationship breakdown, and reduced premature births. Now let's focus in on a couple of those areas specifically. Firstly, your partner's experience of pain during labour. What does the research say? Women attended by their partners consistently reported less pain, needed less medication, and had shorter labours. That's right, guys. Birthing dads are better than morphine. When the people around the labouring woman are known, trusted and calm, she had a sense of being safe and the pain was perceived as less threatening. The most important word in that previous quote was calm. If you're not calm, adrenaline can creep in. And we know that that's no good for labour. Let's now turn to the evidence that shows you can improve mental health outcomes. Greater father involvement in infant care and other household tasks is correlated with lower parenting stress and depression in mothers. Reducing a mother's sole responsibility for infants and young children through more active paternal care is likely to contribute to better mental health among mothers and reduced parenting stress. Clearly, these outcomes are dependent on how active you are around the home and also with parenting duties. Even though we're not directly involved in breastfeeding, we can still make a huge difference.
I think it's really important to understand how important the support people are to breastfeeding, the actual act of breastfeeding. If you've got to be 100% for it, and you've got to be absolutely supportive.
Mothers feel more capable and confident about breastfeeding when they perceive their partner is supportive by way of verbal encouragement and active involvement in breastfeeding.
There are about 2,000 substances in breast milk, and we have a vague idea about what a handful of them are all about. And the rest, we haven't a clue. All we know is that they're there and they must have a purpose. We know that babies who are breastfed are given a perfect cocktail, not only nutritionally. You see, it's much more than food. It's got hormones and enzymes and iso things and all sorts of wonderful components which are critical to the maximization of a baby's growth. Now, you're talking about the brain, which doubles its weight in a year, and the breast milk is a perfect nutrient for brain growth. It's been designed that way. It's also got a perfect cocktail of antibodies which are generated by the mother's body in response to the germs in her environment. So she's actually giving her baby a cocktail of custom-made antibodies for all the things in that baby's environment. And it's changing all the time. And we know that toddler milk, for instance, is different from newborn milk. And in fact, there is some evidence to suggest that boy milk and girl milk are subtly different. These things are designed specifically for our individual baby.
So, what can you do to support breastfeeding if your partner has chosen to do it? Anticipate her needs. You'll quickly learn what these are. Being an advocate of breastfeeding with family, friends and health professionals if required. As you're all aware, breastfeeding is the one thing that us fathers are excluded from. But that doesn't mean that you have to disengage from the process entirely. If your partner has chosen to breastfeed, there is actually A lot you can do to help at this time.
You can, help mum to be comfortable. You can bring her the baby. A lot of mums I know really appreciate some cut up fruit and a glass of water when they're breastfeeding, because it can be dehydrating, and you can neglect your own eating and your own self-care when you're so focused and involved in the baby. So you can do those sorts of things. You might have visitors at home when it's time to breastfeed, and mum might feel embarrassed, breastfeeding in front of your dad or whatever. So you can be sensitive to maybe managing visitors and, chucking them out of the house at the right time. Tell them to come back with a casserole. There's lots of little things that you can do to facilitate that safe, comfortable space for your partner to breastfeed. Talk about what sleeping arrangements that you might want to make that work for all of you. There's a thing called breast sleeping now, which is just, the baby sleeps and feeds and sleeps and feeds.
Confidence comes a lot from dads. It really does. And make no bones about it, women can give up if dads are not, all about sharing that experience and that load in those first few weeks.
Maybe buy or hire a breast pump to express milk, and then you get to have a connection by feeding the little one and giving your partner a break. Hopefully this video has served to give you confidence to back yourself in your ability to support your family. The research is clear. Engaged dads make a massive difference to a woman's perinatal satisfaction levels. And if we could maybe work out a way to involve babies in quantitative academic research, I'm sure they'd say exactly the same thing.
Same thing, Daddy.
In the next video, we'll talk about reducing fear by building confidence. I'll introduce you to the 8 components of perinatal confidence and the birthing dad's wheel of continuous support.